Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the What's on Your Table podcast. My name is Chance Ganem. I got an amazing guest for you here today. We have Jane Barlow on the line, and she is such an interesting person. I can't wait for you to hear her story and hear everything she's got going on. She runs Barlow Herbal Specialties out in Utah, and she is not only a second oldest in a family of 14 kids, but she's also a mother of two sons and has two grandchildren of her own. She believes that each of us is responsible for ourselves and the love, joy, and spiritual and physical health that we experience. We're going to talk about all kinds of amazing information here today that can help you and your family live a healthier life. Thank you so much for hopping on here with me today, Jane.
Well, thank you, Chance. I'm excited to talk to you, and I looked you up too. It looks like you're doing a pretty cool thing too.
Yeah, we're trying to. We're trying to help as much people as we can.
Yeah,
So
that's what the
let's
world's shifting to, right?
You're right, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's hop into your childhood and kind of just hear a little story about your background and where you come from, because it sounds like you didn't grow up like everybody else did back then.
Yeah, it's true. So I was born in 1961, so a long time ago, but the cool thing is my dad was a medicinal botanist, which that means his PhD was literally what makes medicine out of plants work for humans. So he really just geeked out on plants, plant medicine, growing things not just around the house but in the garden, but also there were pots of things growing inside the house as well. Just his curiosity, my mom's too. So if you think about the 1960s and 1970s, this is when all the food manufacturing started to put out a lot of packaged food to make it easier for homemakers and moms. A lot of women were going to the workforce, and that was completely the opposite for me. Like, we didn't get school lunches, we didn't get to go through fast food, we barely ever went to restaurants, partly because there's 14 kids in my family and you just can't afford to take that many kids out. But in retrospect, it was this huge gift for all of us because we ate out of our gardens. We had, we made most of our food was homemade. I learned how to bake homemade bread when I was about 8 or 9.
Wow.
And that was just normal. That was normal for me. So I think that I grew up, we kind of thought our parents were a little hippie-ish,
Mm-hmm.
especially when I was a teenager. It was just kind of like, okay, you guys are so embarrassing, and
Yeah.
I'm second of this big family. So my mom was always pregnant when I was growing up. And
Mm-hmm.
talk about being 16 years old and your mom would announce they're pregnant again. And I'd have to, put up with having a mother who was pregnant. Anyway, it's all ludicrous as an adult, but
Mm-hmm.
we just grew up in this big family with eating homemade food, things that were fresh. And it was a gift for all of us, and we realized it as adults. We didn't really
Yeah.
appreciate it as kids, but we realized it as adults.
What
Yeah.
was that transition like when you started moving out of your parents' house? Were you able to keep that healthy lifestyle with you?
You know what? All of my 20s and about half of my 30s, because I got married really young. I got married when I was 18, and I
Okay.
had my first baby. I have two boys. My first baby when I was 20, and my second baby when I was 21. So I got married really young. So I moved out of my parents' house, and the world was my oyster.
Mm-hmm.
You name it, I ate it. Fast food, junk food, but I really paid the price.
Mm-hmm.
I like my digestion was messed up. Luckily, I was an exerciser. I fell in love with fitness really, really. I was 18 when I started teaching classes as well. So it's kind of this, balancing act of all of a sudden the world was open to me with all these foods I thought I had been denied, right?
Yeah.
And of course, you learn, okay, that's your parents are so smart and so brilliant. You don't learn that until you're older.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I, by the time I flipped myself back around, I was 40 pounds overweight. I probably would have been more if I hadn't been in love with exercise.
Yeah.
But when I was about 38, things kind of swapped and I dropped the 40 pounds. I went all the way back to my roots, and
What'd that look
yeah,
like for you? What are those key adjustments that you made to kind of go back to your roots?
well, I stopped eating mostly sugar and processed foods. It's amazing how full of processed foods our diets are. And part of the thing is I watched my kids start to struggle with their weight.
Mm.
And I was like, oh my gosh, like I didn't grow up, none of my siblings, we didn't grow up with any weight problems at
Yeah.
all. And I think the biggest thing is I'd never suffered. I was having constipation. And it's like, the biggest thing is processed foods and sugar. Those were my two biggest aha moments.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, if you can cut those out, that's it seems like that's normally a vast majority of people's diet when they're going to the grocery store and just picking out of the frozen section. One thing you talked about is you had gardens growing up. Is that something you still do today?
yeah, to me, it's not just about eating food that's fresh and doesn't have things sprayed on it or GMO, but to me, it's about at this point, kind of personal sovereignty, being able to grow your own food. It feels really, really important. So yeah, I've always had a garden.
Okay.
I've expanded it the last couple of years just a little bit, partly because I think it's a really smart thing to do, and I've
Mhm.
always loved. But yes, having a garden is important.
Yeah. Yeah, that's something we've been working on is improving our garden every year, but this is my second year gardening, so I'm still
Nice.
new to it. You got any pro gardener tips that I need to keep in mind?
Well, I think that you should plant what you love. If
Okay.
you end up planting, I've made mistakes over the years. Like I've planted way too many squash plants, where I'll just have zucchini and yellow squash, and squash is coming out of my ears, and you can't give it away fast enough, and you can't make it into like zucchini bread. And I mean, it's almost too much. So I think planting things you love is important. And then I think the biggest tip I have is stay on top of your vegetables and your fruits if you have like fruit trees as they're ripening and coming out of your garden.
Mhm.
Because and if you can't keep up on them as far as if there's an abundance, then be willing to give away, get to know your neighbors and share. Because to me, to have good organic homegrown fresh veggies go to waste is it just hurts my soul. So I say, plant a lot, plant the things you love to eat, and then be willing to give away and start to trade with your
Awesome.
neighbors.
Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely great advice. Well, I took a deep dive into your business with Barlow Herbal Specialties, and I got to tell you what, I was impressed. I was impressed with all from the content and information you put out to just the overall business that you have. Could you give everyone listening here just kind of an overview of what your guys' business is, and then I got some questions I want to dig into after that.
Okay, yeah, sure. So, as I told you in the beginning, my dad was a botanist. He was a medicinal botanist. And when I was about 14, he started a company because he really, making herbal medicine was just what made him tick. So it was partly what I really grew up with.
Hmm.
But then what happened is my dad actually passed away pretty young. He was 62. He basically had a heart attack and was gone in one day.
Wow.
It wasn't a weight thing. I mean, that's a whole nother story. But my dad passed away, and I believe I was about 38 or 39, and his business kind of died with him because here he is he's this highly educated botanist, and he was so young when he passed away that me and all my siblings were already pretty deep into our careers and raising our
Hmm.
families, and none of us had the educational background that he did. We all loved plants and plant medicine and knew how to use them. I mean, I used them on my own kids when they were babies, and that's our first go-to. We didn't go to prescription drugs. We went to, hey, dad, if my son's got an ear infection, what should I do? And
Hmm.
so was normal for us. So about 4 years after my dad passed away, I was really unhappy in corporate America. I was working in fitness, but I was
Okay.
not happy. So I restarted his company. It's been a little more than 20 years now. And so he's been gone for 24 years. And then I started with just his formulas.
Okay.
And now I've got a whole line of my own formulas. And, what I have found is that, first of all, people want to be empowered with the knowledge on how to take care of themselves for the little everyday things that you would normally run to the doctor for,
Hmm.
especially when you're raising kids. Because I think what happens is we don't want to do the wrong thing, and we've stopped learning about plant medicine and how to use it. So we don't have any confidence. So my biggest thing, like you mentioned about the stuff I put out, the education, it's like, if I can educate and empower people, and then help them have the courage and be brave to step in and start using some of these things for just everyday health stuff, then that's where it's all about. It's about empowerment and education, and then learning how to trust natural medicine. So that's really how I run my business. And to me, every single person that can get empowered with knowledge that's my goal.
Yeah.
That's the goal.
How would you define natural medicine?
Well, the first line of natural medicine should be what you eat,
Okay.
you know, because I don't think you can cover up a bad diet with a bunch of herbs. You can't, herbs have their power and they can do some good, but if you're eating a fast food, processed food, junk food, soda, drinking too much alcohol, smoke, whatever your vices are, if you're doing all of that to your body and then you say, well, I'm going to take these vitamins and I'm going to take these herbs, they might have a layer of benefit, but that's not the way to do it. So I would say natural living is really about the basics. Let's start with what you're eating. How much stress do you have? What's your sleep like? How much water are you drinking every day? How much love and purpose do you have in your life? Because all of these things layer in, which you can not take any herbs and you can have this vibrant, beautiful, health-filled life. I mean, that's how we're designed. So yeah, to me, that's the first step, is dialing your nutrition.
Yeah.
And we all know what that means these days, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the funny part. It's like eating healthy is the simplest and easiest thing that everyone knows, but it's so hard to do because there's temptations behind every freezer door, it seems like. That's why at our house we had to eliminate all the bad food, or else I would definitely eat it.
Yeah, you have to clean up your environment. Like there's a book called Willpower Doesn't Work.
Okay.
And it really talks about, you can have all the willpower you want, but eventually that willpower muscle is going to give out. And if you've got things in your environment that you just say, you know what, I'm depressed today, I'm tired today, I deserve it, I can, this is going to help me feel better. And it's easy. So yes, I would say if you can clean all these things out of your environment, you're going to help yourself so much.
Yeah, definitely. One thing that I'm interested in, you said that you were in the fitness niche on your business. You're in the corporate America, but in fitness. And you talked about the one thing we have to look at there is purpose. And you said you weren't feeling purpose there. Could you elaborate on that? Because I think when we think of our health, a lot of people don't feel like the purpose and that part is part of the health. We just think of what's in the kitchen. What are some of the things that you've learned that purpose and having a true purpose in your life can help you even in your fitness walk?
Oh my gosh, that's a huge, big, beautiful question. So I started teaching exercise classes when I was 18 years old. And it was I just fell in love with physical fitness and the way it made me feel, and the sweating and the muscle tiredness and all of that. So that was a really lucky thing for me. And for a long time, I just taught classes, especially while I was raising my boys, because I was a stay-at-home mom. And then when they got to be teenagers, I actually built a health club with one of my sisters. So that was kind of my dream, because fitness, and I still love fitness. Fitness to me, exercise is a key thing I do every single day. It's just I think it's an important part of being a human. So I built a fitness center with one of my sisters, and it was a business that was beautiful, but it didn't make it because a lot of businesses fail. There were complications. So then I started teaching classes at a big chain. I live in Salt Lake City, and there was a big gym that they opened up a few clubs, and I not only started teaching classes, I became a manager. And so I was in a corporate fitness position. I was managing a big health club, but I wasn't just doing what I loved. I had to deal with I had a big team of fitness trainers, a staff of salespeople. I had I was managing this big club.
Which comes with a lot of drama when you got that many people in one. Yeah.
Yes.
Managing
So it was
not
kind
easy.
of exactly. And it was, even though I had a lot of joy because I was in a fitness setting, I had that layer of of corporate America that you had to meet your sales numbers. You had to,
Mhm.
I mean, there was just, and that was just too much for me. But as far as the purpose, I'm sure you've probably heard of a book that's pretty famous called The Blue Zones.
Mhm.
So this is basically, I think it came out 10 or 12 years ago, and there's been lots of studies on these blue zones all around the world, where these groups of people who live past 100, and not just live, but they have these vibrant lives. Their body is healthy, their brain is healthy. And what they found, that the common denominator for these people was that they had purpose.
Really?
And they had community. So they weren't just left to sit in or be in like a retirement home or an old person's home. It was like these people, they usually moved in with a son, a daughter, a relative, and they
Mhm.
were like an important part of the household.
Yeah.
And I think that when we lose our purpose, no matter what it is, we are tribal, cute, like beings. We need to
Yeah.
be with other people, and that can provide purpose. So it doesn't matter what that looks like, but we need each other. We
Yeah.
need each other.
Yeah, that's definitely true. And I can see where, especially when you're thinking about your overall health, like how you wake up every single day. I know I'm guilty of it. Is if you wake up and you're already dreading the start of the day, it's not a good way to start the day at all.
No, in fact, there's this really cool thing that if the way you start your day gets the momentum going, that's very hard to reverse. So if
Mhm.
you wake up, you reach for your phone and you start scrolling social media before you even get out of bed, you are starting a momentum that's going to pretty much track your momentum for the day, that's going to be really difficult to reverse.
Yeah.
So if you start your day, say you get up, you drink a big full quart jar of water, you meditate for 20 minutes, you write in your journal, you have 10 or 15 minutes of just quiet, peaceful, you write down your 3 priorities for the day. Your
Mhm.
momentum is going to be much different than the other way, because trust me, I've gotten caught scrolling social media or whatever with my technology, that it's like, okay,
Yeah,
this is
I'm
BS.
definitely guilty of that one. I have to delete it all off my phone, and I
Yeah.
just am like, I can't have it at all in the morning. It's definitely addictive.
Yep.
So when you're talking about your guys' business, you were talking about the natural formulas, and that was something that I'm kind of curious about because I see that term kind of thrown all over the place. But what is a natural formula, and how is that different than like the traditional medicine that you get from the doctor?
Well, so this is where I think we need to swap our verbiage, because traditional medicine really should be, um, what's tradition for humans. It's
Hmm.
plants and all the holistic things that make us healthy.
Yeah.
So to me, it's more like the modern medicine model is, that's the broken piece.
Hmm.
But as far as there are a lot of supplement companies out there. There's a lot to unpack, because as a consumer, especially as someone who's like, okay, I know I need to do something different. I want to get off all these medications. And people are able to start doing a lot of research themselves, which is great, because I think this is where technology empowers us as modern humans,
Yeah.
is because we can do research. But the thing is this, we have to really be strategic, and we have to be really, really informed as far as what are going to be what I would never personally buy any of my supplements from a big box store.
Yeah.
Costco, Walmart, none of, and the reason why is because if you look on the back of any supplement, there sometimes even on natural supplements, you can't pronounce some of the stuff in there. And
Hmm.
here's the thing that most supplement companies do, they add fillers. Like one of the most popular things for even people that have good ingredients, but one of the most popular things for them to add is rice flour,
Hmm.
because it acts as a filler, and people see rice, and they think, oh, that's good, that's natural, and
Right.
that is true, it is natural. But the problem is you're getting less of the powerful ingredients that you want, because you're paying for a super cheap ingredient like rice.
Mm.
So it's really just important, for people to understand that there are different levels, of things, like the way we do a lot of tinctures, which are liquids, And
Yeah.
we do a bunch of capsules as well, but our capsules have 0 fillers and 0 preservatives, and they're in like an organic veggie cap. So
Okay.
the thing is, it's like, if you don't know what to look for, if you turn over your supplement and you can't, and you see something that looks like a filler, then it probably is just a filler to make more
Mhm.
profit for the manufacturer, unfortunately.
Yeah. So then with no fillers, does that make the potency stronger in the supplement? And then does that make, so just I'm trying to understand this, it makes the actual effect stronger when that happens?
Yeah, I mean, like for a good example, everyone is familiar with cayenne pepper. You
Hmm.
know, cayenne pepper is a really, really, what's one of my favorite herbs because it's so good for things like digestion and metabolism, and it's really, really good for your heart. So it's actually what's known as a vasodilator. So if you were to take, like cayenne pepper is something I've been taking because it was one of my dad's, he always used to hammer into us. Here's some things that you start taking when you become an adult. And
Hmm.
cayenne pepper was one of those, just because of all the health benefits. And it's super simple and it's inexpensive, really. So we actually do a tincture of cayenne pepper, but most people can't take the heat. So
Literally.
if it's hot. I'm one of those people. I'm not a fan of really hot, spicy foods.
Hmm.
So we have it in a capsule form, and we put cayenne pepper, we put a little bit of cinnamon with it because that's also really heart healthy. It also helps balance blood sugar, and it's really good with cayenne. And then we also add a little bit of slippery elm, which is a blood cleanser. So when we put those 3 ingredients into a capsule, there's nothing else in it,
Okay.
nothing. So, and it'll say cayenne pepper, cinnamon, slippery elm, packed with love in organic veggie caps.
Hmm.
And that's it. So if there were something else in it, it will say, because you have to have disclosure on what's in your products. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, that makes
simple.
sense. I'm curious. Can you remember any of the other things that your dad said you should start taking when you become an adult? Because I feel like there's some adults listening that are probably like, that's the one I need to listen to.
Yeah, 100%. In fact, now that, most of my siblings are, in fact, my youngest brother will be 40 in a couple months.
Okay.
And he's the same age as my youngest son. So my mom and I were pregnant together at the same time. So at this point, all of my siblings are now doing this little list of things. So one of the things also that my dad, ginkgo biloba. So ginkgo is really well known and so studied. It's actually been studied more in Europe than it even has in the States.
Hmm.
But ginkgo improves circulation and oxygenation to your brain. So
Okay.
it's good for cognitive health, which to me, that's, I don't want to just get really old and have a good, have my body be strong and vibrant and then have my brain go.
Yeah.
So to me, that's a kind of a balancer. Turmeric is one of those ones
Okay.
that because it goes after inflammation and pain. It has anti-cancer properties. It's very high in antioxidants, super simple, and again, really relatively inexpensive. Um, and then there's a formula that my dad developed. It's actually a tincture, and it's called Daily Vitality,
Okay.
and it has an adaptogen called suma root. He said when you turn 35, Daily Vitality is part of your daily routine. So that was at 35. So it does have ginkgo in it. It has suma, which is an adaptogen, which helps balance body chemistry.
Okay.
It has some cat's claw, which is inflammation and pain. It's got Chinese astragalus, which is blood cleansing, blood purifying. It's got pata arco, which is really good anti-cancer, anti-candida. Also have some adaptogenic, which adaptogens help your body to realize that you're just dealing with modern stress and not I'm running from a tiger kind of a stress. And so this is just something, and that's a beautiful blend. That's easy. And then that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's one of those things that when it comes to supplements, I feel like if you go down the researching rabbit hole, it's like I need to be taking 8,000 different supplements just to kind of stay healthy. But from that list you gave us, it doesn't sound like there's really just some core ingredients there that you need to focus on. So I got a brand new baby. She's like, well, just turned 7 months. So she's getting up there in age. It's crazy to see how quick she grows. But
Nice. Congratulations.
oh, thank you. My
That's a
wife
fun
had
age.
Yeah, it's fun. It's crazy. She's just getting ready to start crawling, and man, we're just bracing for impact when she just starts taking over the house. But my wife, the first time we go to look at supplements or anything, she's always like, "Is it okay for the baby? Is it okay for?" And maybe people listening, it might be for kids. Are there any supplements that you would say people should be researching or looking into for their children that they should be focused on?
Well, so most kids don't need to take supplements,
Okay.
especially if you're feeding them a good nutritious diet. Now, there are like one of the things that we're most well known for. This was the plant my dad actually studied for 30 years. Is a plant. It's a Native American plant called lomatium, and I
Okay.
would say that's probably the very number one thing that we're really well known for. It is the root of this plant lomatium, and its main properties are that it's antiviral. So if I were you, I was raising young kids right now, this would be one plant that I would always have in my home because it's very safe for kids. And if you think about little kids, they're building their immune systems. So they're going to always get a runny nose, they're going to get a cold, they might get an ear infection, they might, there's always all of these things that come at them while they're building their immune system.
Hmm.
And if you can not give them antibiotics, uh, to me, lomatium kept my kids from getting antibiotics when they were little. So I started using this when I was about 14 when my dad developed it. So
Okay.
when my kids were born, and I actually started using it on them when they were about 2 months old, when they needed it.
Gotcha.
And if I had a 7-month-old baby right now, I would learn everything I could about this plant, and I would have it available, and I would learn how to use it. And it's super safe. It's super safe for kids.
Awesome.
It's super safe for nursing moms. It's one of those plants. If I were to just pick one herb or one plant to take me through this life, it would be that one.
All right.
And that's a
Man.
powerful statement because I love all herbs and plants.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's super powerful statement. I'll have to be doing my research on that one.
Yeah.
So if there was somebody out there who maybe they have a small garden at home or they have a little like herb garden in their house, how can somebody get started in making their own tinctures? Like if they just want, that just one little that they grew at their house, is that something that you would suggest people giving a try? Is that something that's even possible? I don't even know, I guess personally, what goes into making a tincture. So could you kind of enlighten us on that?
Yeah, so I do have a YouTube channel. It's Barlow Herbal. And last summer, I updated how to make a herbal tincture.
Okay.
And it's like a 12 or 15-minute video. And I tell you exactly how to make your own herbal tincture because there's a ratio of alcohol to herb and what makes a tincture compared to an herbal extract. So I give you all of I mean, to me, this is empowerment. When you can learn how to make your own herbal tinctures and grow your own. The first place to start really is to grow your own herbs like basil and rosemary and chives and oregano. And the amount of dense nutrition that you get in these, just having, at the very minimum, have a fresh basil plant in your kitchen. You can have something like that all year long. And you can literally, you know, take a fresh basil leaf or two and put it on your food.
Yeah, you can just
So
eat it right off the plant, just like that. So that no
yeah,
one has to worry about cooking it or dehydrating it or any of that stuff. You can just
right,
pluck it and eat it.
right, right. And that's a ton of nutrition.
Yeah.
Like that talk about, you could grow lettuces, but if you take a lettuce leaf, which has got a lot of nutrition, you take a basil leaf, that basil leaf is concentrated, dense nutrition.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Man. Do they have strong taste? Would it be weird if you started sprinkle them in your salad, or is that something you do is just throw some herbs in there?
You mean as far as putting your tinctures into your
Oh no,
salad?
just like the
Oh,
herbs. Like if I was like plucking basil, is it like super strong flavor? I've never had straight basil or basil.
oh my gosh, you need to get some basil, Chance.
Yeah, I do. We haven't done herbs yet. That's something that we're looking at doing. We're getting ready to set up something inside the house to get some herbs started, but we haven't done anything with herbs. So it's a new
Okay.
world for me.
Super easy and yes. In fact, my grandson, who's just turned 9, we have this when every summer we plant a bunch of basil, and I actually call it my basil hedge. because basil grows prolific, and you keep they start to flower, and all summer you just keep the flower plucked off so that it
Okay.
won't go to seed. Um, and every summer, my grandson, since he was only about 2, goes out and he just eats the basil,
Really?
and just plain. He
Hmm.
loves it. And I think what happens when we crave things like that, there's a nutrient that our body needs. I think if you're really craving a good apple or an
Mhm.
orange, or say you just want a cucumber on your salad,
Yeah.
because your body's just craving a cucumber. Well, there's something in that cucumber that your body is asking for on a nutrition level.
Yeah.
So when you start adding spices or herbs like basil and rosemary and stuff, and you start playing around with them, you won't even be able to imagine your salads without them.
Oh man.
They're
All
so
right.
good. They're
All
so
right.
good.
I'm excited. I'm excited. We're definitely going to have to give that a try. Well, when I was looking up some of your stuff before we sat down to record this, I was on your YouTube channel and you said something on there that just shocked me, and I think it really goes well with what we're saying right here. And you said people don't know what it feels like to feel good in their body. And that's something that I think we all like have this idea of like, oh, I'm not feeling good today, or I woke up on the wrong side of the bed, or I don't. But you're saying that we don't even know how to feel good in our body. Could you elaborate on that and let people know kind of what do you mean by that statement and how can we feel good in our body?
Okay, this is one of my favorite things, because what I learned, especially when I was a personal trainer for about 20 years before I started the company I'm doing now. And what I found is that most people have never felt really good in their physical body.
Hmm.
There's always some ache or pain or digestion or headache, or like, we, as modern humans, we just don't know what it feels like. And what I noticed over the years is, like, I remember as a kid, like, when you're a kid and you're running around your yard and you're doing all your stuff, you don't realize how beautiful you're feeling in your body because you haven't experienced the aches and pains yet, right?
Hmm.
And I think, and if you think about all the problems that our kids these days have, autoimmune and allergies to different foods, and it's like, it's even kids are now not experiencing just that vibrant, this is how I feel good in my body. So I
Hmm.
think as adults, and I this really hit me. I was, I think I was about 40. I was leaving one of the classes that I just taught. I taught an early morning class at 6 a.m. for a lot of years. I would go in and 6 to 7, I taught the super early class. And I was leaving the gym one morning, and my face was all red. I was covered in sweat, and I just was on this massive high, which I'm always on a high when I exercise. But there was this one particular morning, I was walking out of the gym. It was the middle of the winter, and the sun was just starting to come up. And so the sky was brilliant. And I just felt so euphoric. And I just thought, this is how we're supposed to feel.
Hmm.
And most of the humans that I know, most of the people I mean, I had a lot of friends at the gym, but there were still people that were complaining about aches and pains at the gym too. And I was thinking, this is our normal homeostasis. This is what our body fights for. When we, go throughout our life and we don't realize that this is how we're supposed to feel, we think that the other way is normal.
Hmm.
So I think if people knew, if they just could get a taste of that, how it was when you were a kid, maybe, and had no pain,
Hmm.
um, and you just felt like amazing in your physical body, you would never want to go back. You would
Yeah.
never, you would do, if you say, oh, it's a sacrifice not to drink soda. Oh, it's going to be horrible if I can't have cake and cookies every day, or all the comfort, if I can't eat potato chips, whatever. Sorry, it's like people just don't understand what they're missing out on,
Yeah.
really.
Yeah, well, and I think it's important for people to know that because, like, for someone in my position, I'm not in the perfect health. I'm working on it, working on getting better every day. And it's something that when I hear that, it's more motivation for me to be like, yes, it is more than just looking good in the mirror or like, that kind of stuff. Like, that's not what it's about. It's about how we feel every single day. One thing you were saying, even people in the gym were having aches and pains, and there's definitely some people who work out that listen to this podcast. Do you have any tips for those people who maybe they are working out, or maybe they're in a big strength training, maybe for a big event coming up or something? Any tips for how they can keep their body in top shape?
Well, I think the thing is I saw a lot of people that were in the gym trying to work off what they'd done the day before, say, like if you ate
Oh,
a, you know what I mean? You see a lot of that. And so they're working out because they're maybe feeling guilty, or maybe that's their normal thing to go in the gym, but they're trying to take away something negative that they did. I also saw a lot of people that were drinking these really horrible energy drinks like Red Bull and all these drinks that are, even Gatorade is not good for you.
yeah,
There's all kinds of crap in there. And so even though they're in the gym, they're working out, um, they're still putting bad stuff in their body that doesn't lead them to get that vibrant health feeling like I'm this alive human. In fact, I was driving home from my warehouse today, and this really fun song came on the radio. It was a song that I used to teach classes to in the 80s. And I just cranked it up and I'm like dancing in my car, right? And I got funny looks, but I'm like, I don't care.
right.
Yeah, so to me, it's just, I think people in the gym, and this is not everyone.
Yeah, of
This is
course.
this is people, and I would say, most of my workouts now are really outdoors. Like I'm a huge hiker, and I think if we can go out and connect with Mother Nature as much as possible, even if it's just walking, that is going to give us that connection, that's going to fill up our souls and give us
Yeah.
what we need. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I lived all across the country in cities and all kinds of stuff. And now every morning when I go out and I go out, check on the cows and go feed my pigs, and it's just like watching the sunrise over the pastures, and it's just so peaceful. It's definitely something you can't beat, getting out there in nature, that's for sure.
100%. That sounds amazing.
Yeah, it definitely
Yeah.
is. So a couple other things that I just want to touch on before we end up wrap up this podcast is, so we have a lot of parents that listen to this podcast, and one of the things I always hear from parents is they always say, I'm just so busy. I got so much going on. It's so easy to just stop at the fast food, stop at the drive-through, this or that. Do you have any tips or any suggestions for parents that are feeling overwhelmed, but they want to make the decision to live a healthier life, but they feel like it's just not in the cards for them right now?
Yeah, well, I might sound a little unsympathetic with this one. I think it's a major excuse. I think that we make the time for things that are important to us.
Mhm.
Uh, and I believe that if it's important for you to feed your kids well and to feel really good and to put these habits into your kids' lives, because you're setting your kids up for habits that are going to be tough for them to break when they become adults. Mine when I went into bad habits as an adult, I had that base to come back to.
Mhm.
So I think it's just a massive excuse for people to say they don't have time. We make time for the things that are important for us. That, and we find the money. Like if there's something that's really important for us to have, we will find the money to get it.
Mhm.
So to me, finding the time is much easier. Besides, think about how much time people waste on our technology. You take
Yeah.
that piece out, you have time.
Yeah.
And I think it's the lamest excuse to say you don't have time.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I can't be really soft about that one. To me, it's like that's just an excuse.
Well, and I think it comes back to kind of what you were saying earlier about when you understand how good it is on the other side, when you are living in that peak health, like we were talking about, it's yeah, there is no excuse. You're like, okay, so will you make it happen? Delete Facebook and you'll be all good. You've found a couple hours in your life.
Well, and be willing to, go to the grocery store, grow food in your garden, and be willing to chop up your own salad. There's something super meditative about that. Is it a lot of work to wash your veggies and peel your veggies and chop them up and make a salad? It is, but I will tell you, once you get into that rhythm and get into the routine, it is something I really enjoy. In fact, one of my favorite things to do is to make, especially during the summer, is make a great big salad, and that's my entire meal. And I'll get creative. I'll put all kinds of things on it. And sometimes I'll get a glass of wine and I'm making my salad, put music on.
Mhm.
My husband's there. Sometimes we'll make our own meals because he likes to cook too. And that is part of the enjoyment that we need to come back to, instead of hurry, hurry, get some food. And then when you get home, what?
Mhm.
look at YouTube videos, watch
Right.
something on Netflix. I mean, take the time to disconnect yourself and go back to that simple enjoyment of preparing your own food. And you might have to really take some time to work at that, because you might think, well, I want this to be convenient and fast.
Hmm.
No, slow back down. Chop your veggies, make your meals, and get your kids involved with that. That's
Hmm.
such a gift you give to them and yourself as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's some of that time too, that when you think about how easy it is to just disappear into technology for hours and hours and hours. What if we spent time as families around the table, like you said, cooking, cutting up the veggies and all that kind of stuff? It's definitely something that I feel like a lot of people are missing.
100%. I couldn't agree more. I do think that was a teeny bit of a silver lining from the pandemic, is people were kind of forced in to prepare their meals again and spend more time. Um, if there's any silver lining to that, that might be one.
Right. Yeah, that's definitely for sure. Yeah, one other thing I wanted to ask before we hopped off here is how do you gain the confidence and trust in the herbal and natural medicines with your family members and with yourself?
Well, first of all, you have to do some research,
Hmm.
do some due diligence, and then there's a couple things. So once you do your research, there's a piece of common sense, because you could do a whole bunch of research and still not have the confidence. And then the second piece of that is you really need to listen to your intuition. You have to say, how does this feel to me? Because as modern humans, it's been like beat out of us basically to stop trusting our intuition.
Hmm.
And as parents, especially, we have this intuitive piece of us because we now have kids to protect. We are mothers and fathers, and we have children to protect. So when we feel like something's not right, you should never guess an intuitive feeling. If
Hmm.
something feels right, it is. Don't second guess it. If something feels off, then don't say, well, why is it off? And I mean, maybe if you need to dig a little bit deeper, but if something doesn't feel right, then that means that's a no. And
Hmm.
then the third piece of this, honestly, is you have to be brave. You have to have courage. You have to say, okay, I've done a ton of research. This feels right. I'm going to jump in and do this. And you have to be brave. At what point do you say, okay, I'm never going to do this because I just will never feel like I just don't have the confidence. You got to
Hmm.
sometimes jump in with both.
Yeah.
It's like jumping into a cold river or something, or do something that's uncomfortable. You have to
Yeah.
start doing it.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you so much for all the information today. I've definitely learned a lot, and I know I got a lot to research after we get off this call. But is there anything that you wanted to touch on that we didn't cover so far in this conversation?
Not really. I think if people knew the power they carry over their own health, um, they they would just be amazed. And the thing is, your health can turn around really, really fast. I mean, we are healing machines. And you think about all the abuse that we give our bodies with the food, the stress, the lack of sleep, the lack of hydration, all of these things that we do. And you know what happens? We still live. Our bodies are still alive. So imagine when you start to take some of these lifestyle things and dial them in. I have seen people explode into vibrant health
Wow.
30 days. You
Wow.
can make such huge changes in 30 days. You just have to say, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And it might get a little bit uncomfortable. Okay, fine. We're adaptable. Humans are adaptable. And it's only uncomfortable until you get that new habit. And then
Hmm.
it's comfortable. So,
Yeah. And then that habit's formed, and then you're used to it, and then it's just the way you live your life.
exactly.
Yeah. Awesome. Where can people follow you, and where can they keep up with what you guys are doing?
Well, so we do have an Instagram. Just simply, I think businesses need to have a presence.
Hmm.
So it's at Barlow Herbal. So BarlowHerbal. Also, a really good place for resources is our YouTube channel. Like I said, I put some information up there about how to make a tincture, how to make an herb infused oil. Plus, there's a lot of other lifestyle things. I don't do a lot of herbal teaching on there just because it's a little bit hard to make claims Yeah, well, it's impossible.
Yeah.
But then our website is barlowherbal.com. So people can find me there. We do have a really nice comprehensive booklet of information, 64 pages. We
Okay.
send out to every new order, a hard copy, but we can also send people a PDF, which is really great because then you can look at everything we have. There's a bunch of frequently asked questions. And to me, it's all about empowerment and education, like I said earlier.
Awesome. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for being on here with us today. Really appreciated this conversation.
Well, thank you, Chance. It's so, I have to tell you, you look a little bit like my sons. When they grow a beard, it's red. They're
Yeah.
both of them have these red beards, but they're both kind of getting gray just because they're 40 and 41 now, but that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I hope it
I
works.
like
Good.
it.
Thanks. The What's on Your Table podcast is brought to you by Ganem Ranch, whose mission it is to provide your family with nutritionally dense pasture-raised meat shipped right to your door. Head over to ganemranch.net to learn more about how they raise their beef and to enter to win a free pack of steaks shipped right to your door.